Good evening. My name is Kacper Paradowski and you're watching Poland Daily News. From 2020, the trade ban will apply on all Sundays, with the exception of 7 a year. This will include 2 consecutive Sundays preceding Christmas, 1 before Easter, and 4 additionally, the last Sunday of January, April, June and August. The trade ban does not apply to shops in which the owners themselves will conduct the sales. Other places exempted from the ban are bakeries, ice cream shops, gas stations, as well as places of service, such as hotels, sports and tourism centres. According to the latest study conducted by Social Changes for Wpolityce.pl, Andrzej Duda holds a very high advantage over his rivals in the presidential race, with 43% of respondents declaring their support for him in the upcoming elections. Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska, the Civic Coalition candidate, saw her support grow by 1 percentage point, adding up to 24% of respondents. Szymon Hołownia remains in third place, as his voter base did not change and remains at 13%. France will be deploying 100,000 policemen to patrol New Year's Eve celebrations around the country, Interior Minister Christopher Castaner said on Monday. Police will be reinforced by soldiers and firefighters.
Castaner, who met with police officers and soldiers patrolling the area around the Eiffel Tower on Monday morning, said threats from militants remained elevated in France for years after the November 2015 attacks that killed 130 people.
Tomorrow night, there will be close to 100,000 policemen mobilized around our country, in Paris, of course, and all the rest of the territory. They will be reinforced by the military, who will have a significant presence as well, and by firefighters, who will again be mobilized tomorrow. There is no let-up on New Year's Eve. On the other hand, there are some moments of tension that we can see, and in moments of festive gathering, and our forces will remain present.
Tourism has picked up after a slump in 2016, and tourists visiting the Eiffel Tower brushed off security concerns. The Christmas and New Year holidays are usually the peak tourist season in France. However, visitor arrivals have been hit by a transport strike over pension reforms lasting nearly 4 weeks.
In France these days, we unfortunately live at high risk when it comes to terrorism, which had evolved in the past few years from a threat projected from foreign countries to a risk originating locally, maybe from people born in France and maybe provoked in France. It exists. The Civil Aviation Authority intervenes regularly in its role as leader of the concerted action. And each day we fight terrorism, which does not constitute a specific risk, but a permanent one. And so we are always mobilized against this threat.
Since the start of the strike on December 5th, year-on-year revenue loss in Paris stands at some 30% for hotels, 40% for cafes and bars, and 50% for restaurants, according to a spokesman for the GNI Independent Hotels and Restaurants Federation.
It's been almost 10 years since a 7.0 magnitude earthquake decimated the impoverished Caribbean country of Haiti, destroying much of its capital and killing hundreds of thousands of people. Haiti has yet to recover.
On January 12, 2010, Haiti was struck by an earthquake, killing more than 230,000 people and injuring 300,000. Medical facilities in the disaster-affected region were almost entirely destroyed. Since then, Haiti continues to face difficulties. In 2010, Humanity and Inclusion deployed one of its largest humanitarian aid operations in Haiti, which continues to help strengthen the local physical rehabilitation network. At that time, there were only 13 physical therapists in the entire country, and most were working abroad.
I was at the lottery place when I heard the earthquake. Everybody was running and a house collapsed on some people. There were a lot of bodies on the ground. I dropped everything that I was carrying and I ran outside. When I ran out, I fell over some people. I was on the ground, then I got up and I saw my own house collapsing.
Following the devastating 2010 earthquake, a powerful hurricane in 2016 compounded serious political instability that continues to disrupt the country today. 10 years after the Haiti earthquake, while the country is still healing, the people of Haiti are looking forward with a willpower that inspires and moves people all around the globe.
That is all for tonight. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for Poland Daily Business. Good night.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tonight calls for clear skies in the west and on the northern coast. The rest of the country can expect partly cloudy and cloudy skies. The temperatures will vary from 1 to 4 degrees. Tomorrow we can expect a great start to the new year, as we can expect partly cloudy skies throughout the country. The warmest spots on the map will be Koszalin and Gdańsk at 5 degrees, while the coldest will be Katowice and Kraków at a high of 1 degree. That is all for now. On behalf of everyone at Poland Daily, I wish you the best in the new year, and as always, I invite you to stay with us for Poland Daily Business.
Every year in the world, the environmentalist government agencies and international bodies are assembling in some point of the world to discuss the climate change. This is called COP25. This year in Madrid just ended. With which results? This is obviously the question to Jakub Wiech, chief editor of Energetyka24.pl portals.
Hello. Well, the COP conference ended with fiasco, with spectacular fiasco, I would say, because the most important matter that was that's being discussed during that conference, and that was the matter of emission trading and emission reduction systems. The countries that were discussing that did not come to any compromise or any specific regulations that may help the world to introduce the so-called Paris Agreement. So we are talking about the fiasco of COP25. We are now looking very closely to the next COP in Glasgow that due to some experts and media outlets should be more precise and more specific when it comes to, for example, new emission reduction goals implemented by some countries.
There is a hidden story in that, because it was supposed to, the COP25 was supposed to be held in Santiago de Chile.
That's
the
correct.
country that is very much focused towards new energy. And due to this very reason, the energy there is very expensive. That caused riots on the streets, and organizers decided to move the conference to more peaceful Madrid. If you flip that story, another point in the media attention was focused on some teenager that was traveling from the South America to Spain over the ocean by a sailing catamaran.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, there's some very important point that you mentioned, because everybody, media and experts, put more attention, or for example, the UN summit in September, or to the EU summit in Brussels, than to the conference in Madrid, because no one expected that some spectacular compromise will occur in Madrid. However, people were sure that the global community will achieve something. For example, due to, climate protests going on in several places around the world.
You're talking about Extinction Rebellion, the group that is totally childish and organizes this loud and very spectacular protest. God knows why they are protesting and what they actually want.
The Extinction Rebellion organized a protest in London Underground, and that's the one that I cannot agree with, because I see no reason of stopping subway trains to demonstrate.
Middle class representatives stopped the working class to get to their jobs
by stopping quite environment friendly way of of transportation. So it was a foolish move from the Extinction Rebellion to do this. However, we're not talking only about the Extinction Rebellion. We are talking also about the Fridays for Future and the climate strike. So there are a lot of initiatives that focus on demonstrating the anger stemming from the fact that global governments do not do very efficiently.
They assume that the current state of technology will lead the world to become such an uninhabitable place that we all will die soon.
Yeah, we are. They say that we are dangerous.
Sorry, I should have said this seriously, but I can't. I mean, it's so stupid, so childish that I really can't bear.
I mean, I see the point in facing the truth that we put a civilization in the current framework at risk. But of course, no one says that we all die in the next several years. But pointing the threats for civilization is quite accurate. We can see it. For example, when it comes to agriculture and to the possibilities to produce enough food to the people around the world, because due to climate change we are losing some grounds that were.
That's again the charges that are around since end of the 18th century, Mr. Malthus and Malthusianism, with the idea that eventually the growth of the humanity will not be paired with food available. Well, so far over this 250 years, he has been proven wrong. Why should we expect that finally at some stage he will be right?
Well, because now we are facing a threat that we have not faced during the history of humanity, and the climate change is a process that will affect so many spheres of our daily life that we cannot assess what exact result of it will touch us.
So
in a
next
very different
year,
way.
about the same time, the international expert will gather in Glasgow, and again.
Well, I hope that it will end with something other than the fiasco, but I hope that the commentaries by experts will become true, and some countries like China will be able to, implement new goals of emission reduction.
China is actively fighting with pollution of its air. That's known worldwide, the bad quality of air in Beijing, and they are doing quite a lot with this. The CO2 emission is other issue. Thank you very much for this conversation, and that was it for Poland Daily Business Tonight.
Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily Business Weather. The forecast for the first day of the new year will bring some very fair weather to Poland. We can expect partly cloudy skies throughout the country and highs of 1 to 5 degrees. In Europe, we can expect clear skies in Vienna and Zagreb, cloudy skies in Dublin, Paris and Oslo, sleet in Ankara, and partly cloudy skies throughout the rest of the continent. The warmest spot on the map will be Lisbon and Athens at 13 degrees, while the coldest will be Minsk and Moscow at 0 degrees. That is all for now. On behalf of everyone at Poland Daily, I wish you all the best in the upcoming year and wish you all a very pleasant evening.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. In this series of programs, I'll be talking to young Polish publicist and freshly baked author Ania Stępiak. Aniu, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Her first book, It's a Displeasure, just appeared in the bookstores. So let's find out what is her story. Aniu, I would say that your book, Bardzo mi niemiło, it's a displeasure. It's one big column about politics, about social relations, and criticism on both political sides. You have a very interesting remarks there that all forms of Marxism are from the ground against work and against the value of work. And I was thinking about it for a long time. Well, I think it's true, especially during socialism, when people, as we have this common phrase, well, either you sit or you lay, you still have to earn 1,000 zlotys, which just says that effort has no value, no real value, and that's very corruptive in a way.
Well, even I think in the US we have such a narrative, or even among United Nations, I believe, that no matter what you do, you should have this, minimum wage. You don't have to do anything; you just get money. I mean, this is so ridiculous. But okay, I mean, I sometimes think let those people really do it, and then if it all collapses, then I think that literally no one longer would believe in such absurd and follow those people. Maybe this should be a remedy.
Might be, that's true. And we have, in your book, we have an opposition, thinking opposition, intellectual opposition against it. That's in the character of Marek. But we have, I would say, a life opposition against it, and that's the character of Aneta. And I would like to a little bit dig up more in her, because she is, I would say she's the toughest one in the book. She comes from a different city, but she's not afraid of work. Let's put this first. She's not afraid of working anywhere. Tell us more about her.
I don't want to reveal too much about her. I mean, I convince everyone to read the book. Yes, she's tough. She has gone through some things in life. But again, let me just escape a little bit. And there's something just came to my mind. I have a friend who is a diplomat in one of the African countries. And do you know what some of the African students, why they want to study in Poland, get the visa and study? Because they want to study, for example, leadership. And I mean, what on earth can you do after studying leadership, right? I mean, what subjects do you cover? What do you read about it? It's just ridiculous. And what I want to say by going back to the book is that what I don't like about certain, let's say, red movements, I mean, on the left side, by red I mean Marxists, communists, etc., is that you have to be someone, you have to, be a leader, you have to be amazing, you have to fulfill yourself. And one of the questions that, for example, Krzysztof Karań, whom I personally really like, asks is, well, someone has to bake the buns that you eat, the bread that you eat, or someone has to, clean the streets you walk on, or just take the trash. And do you think that really the robots will do everything? I really doubt it.
Well, definitely this element, the value of work, is underlined in your book by Aneta the mostly, because she works all the time, I would say. And especially as a waiter, which often we don't really appreciate such works that much, or people look down at such people, and they have to be very skillful, and they have to put a lot of effort in it. So even though your main character is male, I would still say that you underline the fact that the feminine element is right now one of the strongest. And it's also not intellectual opposition to cultural Marxism, but it's a factual opposition to cultural Marxism. Would you agree?
Yes, I think I would agree. And another thing that I would like to point out is how, again, it's something copied from Mr. Krzysztof Karań, so credits to him.
Let's credit him, of course.
But at least in the so-called communist times, because Poland has to be rebuilt, so this value of work was present, right? Because someone had to rebuild Warsaw, for example, right? And now this is not maybe most people think communism, but certain, I would say, people who are inspired by these ideas just tell you, actually, you don't have to do anything. Either the robots will do your work, the salary will just come in, and then just one question comes to my mind. Well, if all the work is done by robots and you don't have to do anything, then what are you going to do in your life?
Read books, maybe. Read books.
Not really, because you are so much into smartphones and your attention is not focused that you just name the people that really read books. I mean, in Poland, just only, I think, 37% of the population just read at least one book in a year, right? So I doubt it.
So let's finish with something positive.
Mm-hmm.
What's the positive message from this book?
Well, this is what is written on the back side of the cover by Professor Jerzy Kopania, who was so kind to put his comment, is that still there is some hope. I still have some hope in the reality, in humankind. So let's have this hope. And
let's stay with this hope and have it as a punchline. But I think the most important message from Bardzo mi niemiło, it's a displeasure book of Ania Stempniak, is the fact that work has its huge value. If we still believe it and we don't lose it, it's the light in the end of the tunnel. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome back to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson, and we're looking at Polish-Jewish relations in the context of the life of Leopold Termund, whose son, Matthew, is my guest in the studio today. Matthew, we've had a fascinating glimpse. Obviously, we can't do justice to your father's work in the time available. We've had a fascinating glimpse of his life. And how did he find being in America towards the end of his career, or as it developed? Because we talked about how Poland had been a place of great tolerance, and then with the dislocation of war imported this intolerance.
Yeah.
And because
and the communists as well. I mean, you look at 68, purging, he left in 66, 65, 66, but the communists purging the Jewish students from the universities and sending them, out of the country, that was, again, a scapegoating, much like the Tsarists in the turn of the century, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Indeed.
That was a scapegoating that it wasn't the natural order of things among Poles who had been living side by side with Jews for so many hundreds of years, but that is, something that happened. My father was already in America, and he was already very actively involved as a social and political critic, and had moved hard to the right after the left had said, no, communism is so great, and he said, you guys are idiots. And that's when he became very deeply involved in the conservative movement. This is in the post-Goldwater era in the US, when there was a conservative reawakening of American founding principles, limited government, economic free marketism. And he became an advisor to Nixon and Reagan, and a friend as well to Nixon and Reagan, who really told them about what was going on in Central Europe, what the culture was, how to defeat communism, how to spread ideas. He was doing things with Radio Free Europe and Voice of America. His writing was, published everywhere, from the Wall Street Journal to the Detroit Free Press. He had written quite a few books. He wrote a book called Communist Civilization. In English, it was called the Rosa Luxemburg Contraceptive Collective. Very, very funny book. It was about communism from cradle to grave. When you're born in a state hospital, how you're treated, to your childhood and schooling, until your death, until your work, your job, all this. And then this book was published in Poland under the title Communist Civilization. And it was, still, I think, a great book, and he has very, very funny but approachable parables of life under communism, like the commies are war against teeth and dentistry. A section on this that's very, very witty. But in America, he was very, very happy. Even though he had fought the left, he had been censored again by the establishment, he still had a freedom. He moved in a cohort of great conservative thinkers and luminaries like Bill Buckley, close friends, Hilton Kramer from the new New Criterion, Brent Bozell, Ed Fulner, the founder of Heritage, close friend, who's now like an uncle and a mentor to me. Just great. S.I. Hayakawa, the senator of California, famous conservative thinker. Jesse Helms, senator of North Carolina. So he's very deeply involved among the political and intellectual right. He started a think tank in the 70s in Rockford, Illinois. And he loved the American heartland because this was the real American people, the American values that were, a few hundred years old. The frontier spirit, what de Tocqueville wrote about in the 1830s in Democracy in America. He felt very at home there. My mother didn't really like it because she was a New Yorker, and Rockford's 90 miles outside of Chicago with very brutal winters and no sort of cosmopolitan life whatsoever. Right. But for him to be in this sort of corner of America, he started a magazine called Chronicles of Culture that became a very important outlet for conservative thinkers. Pat Buchanan was a contributor, a conservative who ran for president and is an important paleoconservative commentator in American politics still today. So he had a big impact. I mean, he was a board member of the Philadelphia Society, which was a group of these highest level conservative thinkers and political players, people like Milton Friedman, Milton Friedman, Hayek. Hayek was involved in this, so economic liberals, classical liberals, conservative thinkers, and so he really was even though he did not do great financially because the establishment had shut out the American right as much as they could. They still try and do it. They're failing, thankfully. Even though he wasn't, at the apotheosis of celebrity, he was happy because he was with, great thinkers pushing forward ideas, and he was free to do so unmolested. So it was, a period in his life from, say 1970 to his death in 1985, where his output was prodigious. I've been to the Hoover Institution, the Stanford archives, and that's where my mother had given all of my father's archives, 26 boxes of documents, and I've read through them. The letters between him and Buckley and political figures are just brilliant. The articles, the drafts, the original diary, 1954, the 8 notebooks that he smuggled out of Poland of the diary that were later published in 1980. It's just amazing history, and this is the same archive that has a lot of the great Poles of the 20th century, a lot of the freedom fighters and dissidents and writers. In fact, the whole archive of the government in exile in London is in Hoover as well. So it's a fitting place, as well as the great free market economists like Friedman and Hayek. They're also at Hoover. So it's a fitting place for his, 26 boxes of letters and manuscripts and drafts.
Don't be surprised if on your trip to Gdansk you decide that it looks a lot like Amsterdam. They are old-time sister cities as part of the Hanseatic League. That's the great trading league of several hundred years ago. Those tall, pointed houses mark the architecture of the time. Gdansk today is a beautiful thing to see. The colorful facades of the Long Market tempt a stroll. This Polish port city on the Baltic has been known for its amber trade for 1,000 years. There is much to say and do in Gdansk, but for the purposes of this series of episodes, we are only going to be looking at the old town and taking a stroll around and talking with a couple of friends. This is the first of many subsequent visits to Gdansk. Like Warsaw, it is full of riches and shares a place on the coast with its 2 sister cities, Sopot and Gdynia. Home to some of the most momentous events of the 20th century. Gdansk was the place where World War II started, and was also the place where the Solidarity movement rose and became prominent enough in the world and in Poland to change the nature of society in Europe. It's a great city, and without further delay, let's go walk about Thanks for watching Poland Daily. My name is Will Richardson, and we appreciate it. Like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, and please subscribe. And now, let's take a walk around Gdansk.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel here in Gdansk. We're standing in the old Market Street. Those of you who saw the last episode will know that. Those of you who are tuning in for the first time may be surprised at how amazing this street is. It's one of the great streets, not only of Poland, but one of the great streets of the Hanseatic League, in the old days, which was a football league in the, when was it?
Yeah.
Middle Ages?
Yeah, the Middle Age Football League.
Middle Ages, not for middle-aged people, but in the Middle Ages, a football league.
Middle-aged people like us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm only 41. What are you talking
right,
about?
Me too.
Yeah. We're both 41. Actually, I'm 39. You're 41. I saw your passport.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Polish passport.
Yeah. When I was at your house rifling through your things while you were rustling up some dinner for us. Yeah, he wasn't cooking at all.
Okay, yeah.
We went to the Pizza Hut. Yeah. We didn't actually.
No.
We didn't actually. Anyway, look, wow, what is this?
I've never seen that.
In Długa Street, in the years 1363, 1385, you don't know anything about this?
No, I know nothing about it.
Lived the Blessed Dorothea of Montau, a mystic and a recluse.
Right.
Now, what'd that mean? A mystic and a recluse.
Well, she didn't go out much, although she lived on on the main street
That's
of town.
what a mystic does?
That's...
Or a recluse?
Well, recluses usually don't live on the main street of town, do they?
I know.
They usually live in a cave or...
She was a recluse who liked the limelight, liked publicity.
But where is Montau?
Isn't that at the end of Long Island, Montau? Oh, that's Montauk. Montauk. That's a surfing place on the end of Long Island, beyond Sag Harbor.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't know where Montau is. It sounds German. I think it's a case for Wikipedia.
Why don't you check it out?
Wikipedia, because when I'm traveling, and I don't know something, I go straight to Wikipedia.
Are you sponsored by Wikipedia?
I'm not sponsored by Wikipedia. I should be. We should be. The whole thing should be. Okay. Oh, what a surprise. I happen to have it.
Whoa.
Immediately ready. It's not like that was planned or anything. I didn't plan that.
Amazing how crazy the internet is. The interwebs.
It was almost as if I just thought of it and it appeared.
That's Google's next thing.
It's really crazy. Probably.
Yeah.
It's like it wakes you up in the middle of the night and goes, "We know what you're thinking," you know.
Google to order products for you?
No. Stop it.
So go on.
After centuries of veneration in Central Europe, she was canonized. Does that mean they shot her out of a cannon?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And she
was
survived.
Canonized.
She was
survived
survived
good.
because she was a saint.
That sounds explosive to me. Yeah. Her life. She was born in Prussia, to the west of Marienburg, which is Malbork, the great castle. She was born there, and to a wealthy farmer from Holland. She married. She married a swordsmith. I guess it's a guy who makes swords, like a blacksmith, makes black things.
I thought that saints didn't get married, but anyway.
Mm-hmm. She began to experience visions. So she's kind of a Joan of Arc figure, right? Yeah.
Or else she found some good mushrooms out in the forest.
She may have found good mushrooms, because they like mushrooms in Poland.
They do.
She moved to Kwidzyn.
Kwidzyn.
Yeah, you know where that is?
Yes, I do.
South of here, yeah. And with the permission of the Teutonic Knights, she became a hermit against the wall of the cathedral, which is not my idea of fun.
No.
Yeah, I think I would find a better place than the wall of the cathedral to be a hermit. Maybe on the beach somewhere in, let's say, Greece.
But she had a nice apartment
where it's
on
warm.
Volga.
Yeah, she has a nice. She led a very austere life, except for her nightlife in Długa Street, and numerous people they sought her. Yeah,
she's the only Polish saint to have stigmata.
Yeah, she's the only Polish saint to have stigmata. So she's a huge saint.
But wait, is she Polish? She's Polish.
She's a Polish saint. Well, she was. There was confusion.
Then.
She was.
She was Holland. She was Dutch.
No, she married. No, she grew up in.
But her father was
in
Dutch.
Prussia. She grew up in Prussia.
She grew up in Prussia, but her father was Dutch from Holland.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
either.
mixed up.
That's the problem
but people.
with this place. It's very confusing.
But the nationalities were mixed up.
Right, and there wasn't actually really. Yeah,
I know that much because even Germany wasn't. Yeah, the people crossed. They didn't have passports.
Yeah.
They just went back and forth, you know, and you just had to pay taxes where you were, right?
There was one point.
That was the important thing. Yeah.
They were trying to get rid of, let's say, Germans in the area. This was 1300s
good
or so.
to you.
And
Blessed
they were
Dorothea.
checking to see if people were Polish or not.
Yeah.
And they gave them Polish tongue twisters to say. And if they couldn't pronounce them properly, they lopped off the head.
If they couldn't say the tongue twister?
Yeah.
So do you know any of these tongue twisters?
Oh, I can't say.
Could it be like
Szczecin,
Szczecin, or Międzyzdroje? It took me like, I had to go to a psychiatrist for like 6 months to learn to say Międzyzdroje. I just couldn't. He said, "You're never going to do this, son. You need to relax." You know. Anyway, finally I learned to say Międzyzdroje. I'm very proud.
Very good.
I wanted to be able to do that before I left the planet. You know. Oh,
at least you've accomplished something.
Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel. We're in Gdansk. Look at this. Look at this.
This big
dramatic
thing?
This big dramatic thing. We just turned the corner after looking at baubles, and now this is like one of the most substantial sites I can think of in Europe. Look at this.
This is the largest brick Gothic church in Europe.
That's incredible.
And if you put enough, that's one of the things you do. You put enough adjectives in front, and you can get it up to the European level.
Yeah.
If it was a cathedral, it wouldn't be the largest. If it wasn't brick, it wouldn't be the largest. If it wasn't Gothic, it wouldn't be the largest. But it was built by the Teutonic Knights in 1400s or so, and it's all brick all the way up to the top. You can go up to the top if you want to, if you really want to tire out your legs.
The Teutonic Knights were serious brick people.
They loved their brick.
They loved the brick, because yesterday when we were coming up on the road trip, we stopped in Nijice, which is the southernmost outpost with a castle of the Teutonic Knights, okay? It was built in the 1300s. Then we went to Ostroda, another interesting palace, a Teutonic palace, where Napoleon stayed.
Of course, Napoleon stayed everywhere. He probably turned it into some warehouse or something, and he had troops sleeping inside, probably.
I don't know.
Because that's what Napoleon did everywhere. He turned everything that was beautiful. Oh, let's have the troops sleep inside.
Well, he had to take care of his army. It said he stayed there, but who knows? For like 6 weeks. And maybe because they were on the way to Russia, and that's a long time to get you have to stop, get your army, you know, get everybody provisioned and all those things, and get things moved in so you can take the next step. So maybe that's what was going on. It was a staging area. Maybe. You know, could have been. But anyway, apparently he stayed. Then and that's a beautiful building. Not as big as Nijice, but still a big building. And then we continue further up the Route 7, and we get to Elblanc. Yeah, there used to be a castle there, but we didn't see it. I don't know if it's still really there, but you see the remnants of or the beginnings of this kind of architecture there.
The original castle here is completely non-existent.
Yeah, I think that's the same in Elblanc.
There's a few bricks left over from it, and that's it. But
they have a big church in Elblanc.
The other big buildings like this, those have remained.
Yeah, so it's amazing. These guys love to build a huge brick building, and look at the light on it. It's just an amazing picture, isn't it? We got lucky, of a midday in Gdansk. What a swell place. I'm really having fun, Carl.
Good.
Thanks for taking us around. Okay, we're gonna go on and walk up the cathedral. Yeah. It's not a cathedral, church.
It's not a cathedral.
Yeah, church.
Church.
Yeah.
That's why it's the largest.
God, they were serious people, weren't they? The Teutonic Knights.
They were very serious.
Yeah.